Hi, I'm Crystal with Azalea's Garden, and for today's video, I wanted to show you around the beds and show you what has grown and how it has exploded in the last few weeks since the last video that I posted when I was planting some seeds, and just show you how big some of these plants have gotten. And I'm also going to be doing just some work around the garden beds. I'm trying to maintain and trying to do my best. My goal is to try and keep the pests at bay, so I'm going to be sharing what I'm going to be doing, and hopefully that gives you some tips and or tricks on what you should be doing to get ahead so that you don't end up with a huge amount of bugs in your garden, because I know that has happened to me so many times. Okay, so here we have the most satisfying raised bed in my garden currently, and if you saw the video about a month ago, it did not look like this at all. I'll insert some clip of it. All of these zinnias were self-seeded from a plant that I just completely ignored and let die. It was one plant, and I believe it mixed itself with Victorian Wedding from Floret as well as Unicorn Mix from Floret. I was trying to keep them separate, but it's okay, it happens sometimes. And I'm not mad with the selection that grew, because it really is a beautiful mix of colors. So I will be letting some of these go to seed and collecting that seed. So unfortunately, with our heavy winds right now, this one broke off, and I'm really upset because I think it was the only one with this color. So I'm hoping I was gonna pull it, but maybe I can let this go to seed. I don't know. I did plant a gomphrena, so that's okay. It will take over this little spot. I have some cucumber here growing along the line. I just need to pull some weeds. And I interplanted quite a bit of, I believe it was green, some kind of bean that I had also collected from a previous harvest. And I know they like a little less of that heat, so I figured it'd be a good little inner planting, and so far they've loved it. I've actually never done that, and I think I'm going to start doing that because look, here we have a few little beans already. I do see some pressure somewhere. There it is. Do you see some? I believe that's spider mite pressure right there. So I'll be spraying later, and I'll tell you guys exactly what I'm gonna spray and what the regimen is gonna be like. But I think it's safe to say we'll be harvesting some beautiful little zinnias today. I've also got 2 peppers, some marigolds that I showed you in the marigold video, the beginner's guide to marigolds, and all of this basil that I also seeded from previous harvests. I just let it rain and it's doing its thing. I like to let my green onions go to seed because I just collect it and or I just let it kind of drop in its place so that it gets spread. I had better luck in South Carolina with that than I have had here. In this bed I showed you in the marigold video, I talked about that, and I did a little bit of cleanup. I have some more cucumbers here. These are getting more sunlight obviously, so they're loving it. Another rogue zinnia. This was also a self-seeded tomato. And then in my transplanting seedlings video, we transplanted some different varieties and they're doing great. I just did that on Friday and today is Tuesday, so they all took, and I'm very excited about that. I also had a random very cheap packet of snapdragons, so I just threw them around to see if they would stick. I've had it for so long and I'm not gonna use it, so we'll see. We'll see if that comes up. This is the experiment. Okay, this is what I mean by going a little too heavy when you're planting in raised beds, because I went a little ham, and I think some of these things are getting a little crowded, specifically my sunflowers. So we need to make a little bit of room so that they can have that chance to grow and get that sunlight that they need. So in the transplanting video, I planted a celosia. I don't know. I think that is a status. Yeah, that's a status, I think. We've got some self-seeded zinnias, some sunflowers that are finally popping through, but some of them are not getting enough of that light. Several zinnias. I want to talk about this cucumber in a minute. Some more zinnia, the celosia there, sunflower, and here I not only have a sunflower, but I have basically a rogue dahlia that I planted last summer, and I thought died. It died all the way back, didn't come out. It only came once. The stem died, so I thought I pulled it. And here she is. Just goes to show you that they're very resilient plants. Our variegated Eureka Pink Lemon that we transplanted, well, repotted because it was severely damaged, is doing well. There is a little bit of scale still, which was to be expected, but it took very well to the very harsh repot, and so I'm very happy about that. There's a little bit of water there that we'll have to spill out later. So let's talk about these cucumbers. There's obviously some damage. This, to me, looks like it is a mite issue. I don't really see anything under the leaves, but my guess is that it is a mite issue, which is something I deal with pretty often. Yeah. And here we could see a little bit of that. So here we can actually see that it is some kind of mite. While this is a zinnia, it's showing us with its leaves the damage there. Here you can see holes here. That tells us it's a mite issue. We know it's not a water damage issue just because this wouldn't be happening here if it was water. It's definitely some kind of a mite. So we will be helping this cucumber trail up instead of around on the zinnias, and then later in the evening we'll be spraying it. Okay, so let's get started. Sorry, little bee. So I just posted my zinnia video on Monday last week. Today is Tuesday of the following week, and they have just exploded since then. I wanted to show you that I did find some insect damage on some of the green bean, so I'll be spraying those later too. Okay, so for the cucumbers, I will be using this garden, I don't know, twine. Get it at Home Depot, anywhere. It's just a cut to your own size. Perfect. Okay, so now that I've started to train it up, we're just gonna cut off a lot of this damage. So as I do this, a tip I want to give you guys about trying to stay on top of your garden is to just come out maybe 15 minutes at a time and just start pulling, you know, little weeds that are popping up. Sometimes I know I leave them for later and I say I'm gonna let them get a little bigger and then pull them out later because it's easier. But what it does is it just ends up taking a lot of energy and water sources from your other plants. And I feel like it creates more bugs. So just staying on top of it, I think, is the real winner here. Another thing I want to suggest is just digging around underneath your plants to look for damage, just because, you know, we always tend to look at the tops of our plants and notice how beautiful they look up top, but we don't look at all of the problems that are showing up on the bottom, which is where a lot of our pests like to hide. Just like this, perfect examples of just looking at the tops and how beautiful they are, but then noticing that we actually have problems deep in the plant, and we want to get to those problems before they completely take over our plants and it's too late. The second thing I want to mention that I think we overlook often is our watering schedule. I know a lot of times we think, well, no, duh, we should be watering our plants. But I think oftentimes, I know in my case, I say, I'll do it later, or I think it can go an extra day, just being careless. And I really notice that my plants tend to suffer because they just don't enjoy the inconsistency of my watering. So really keeping an eye on your watering schedule.
One eternity later.
Okay, so it's a whole new day. I do have a 9-year-old and a 6-month-old, so sometimes things happen that take priority. But I did want to touch on a couple of different bases before ending this video. Another thing to keep in mind is your soil. Normally, every year I try to amend my soil with a lofty, delicious type of compost, and usually it's already something that is blended with mushroom, cow, and chicken compost, as well as vegetable compost in the mainland, or really what they call the rest of the United States. There is several really nice organic brands, especially local. If you can just find a garden center that has different types of organic compost or even worm castings. Unfortunately, in Hawaii, I haven't really found one that I really like, so I've had to mix my own. Don't stress too much about the type of soil though. Do your best with whatever means that you have just to get a nice lofty soil. You want it to be like cake. So you want to be able to stick your hand in there without having to dig, without it being hard. That's just going to guarantee that the roots of your plants have the ability to spread and grow to create that nice established plant. There are so many other things that we can cover when it comes to gardening, but I don't want to overwhelm you, so I'm gonna leave you with these few things just to get you started and get your gears going with just keeping your garden as good as you possibly can without overstressing or over complicating things. All right, till next time. Bye. It is the middle of the night basically, and I forgot to do this. So this is a fungal issue, so I'll be doing copper fungicide tomorrow, and I'm using the neem oil.